It's an age-old question. Do I hire for experience or skills? Here's how to weigh each one and get the right people in the door. Let me give you a hint. The answer is both, but there is more to this. All right. Maybe you're a new business owner. Maybe you've been in business for a while. I don't know about you, but hiring can be frightening, right? When I was in the IT world running a multi-million-dollar IT consulting and training firm, I hired and fired a lot of people. And it was the least favorite part of my job. The hiring part was stressful because you weren't sure, right? It was like, even if someone looked great on paper, even if they interviewed really well, sometimes they wouldn't work out or they would get hired by someone else after you put in all this time, effort, and money. And the other thing is I've fired people too. And that, of course, is unpleasant. But it is one of the things you have to know how to do if you're going to have your business, grow your business, and scale it to the next level. So let's talk about experience. How important is that? Here's what's interesting. When I was hiring a lot of salespeople in the beginning, my belief was that I only wanted to hire salespeople with very specific experience in the IT industry. That was it. And so my lens was this big because I thought that's my only option. And so I did that. I hired a lot of people within the industry. And 20% of them were really good. And the others, it was like I hired someone else's problem, right? Like they really didn't want to be there. They really didn't want to sell. And so in that example, experience was definitely overrated. On the flip side, I remember interviewing someone who had worked retail for years, and he worked in a high level retail position, and there was some commission involved. So he'd already had that experience. On paper though, he'd never been in the IT industry. He didn't have traditional sales experience. He didn't have any of those things, but he did have one thing that I'll never forget. He was hungry. I could tell that whatever I threw at him, he would want to be the best at it. And so while he didn't have traditional sales experience, I took a risk and I hired him. And I'll tell you, he was one of my best hires ever. And the interesting thing was he had opportunities to advance in the company. He didn't want to. He wanted to be a salesperson. And when it comes to salespeople, you find those top salespeople that's the only thing they want to do. They don't want to manage. They don't want to, have their own company. They want to be in a sales position and they want to sell. And I'll tell you, those are the best salespeople in the world. And he became that in our company. He became one of our top sales leaders and continued to grow his career. At one point, I was president of the company and he was still in his sales position. And I'll never forget this. He was making more money than I was. I was making a phenomenal salary. And I was receiving at that time $50,000 bonuses a month sometimes. And he was still outpacing me because at the time in that company, we didn't have caps on our salespeople, so they could make as much money as they wanted to. And he did. So that's where you start to weigh out experience or not experience, and you might find that someone who has the right skill set or someone who has transferable skills and is really hungry and has a desire, like a burning desire to be successful, will outperform someone who has the experience but isn't as excited about the job anymore. One of the other things that you want to look for is how aligned their values are with your company. This particular sales rep shared our values. He shared our company's values. He was willing to do whatever it takes. He was willing to come in early and stay late if he needed to. He was willing to be a team player. He helped other people out in the company. He connected with other people. He just wanted to add value. And so truly his values were aligned with not only the company, but the other employees that were there. So I will take values alignment over experience any day because you can't teach values. Values are just part of who someone is already. You can help people grow their skill set. The other thing you want to look for is whether or not someone you're interviewing had a bad experience at a different company. This is a big red flag for me. I remember interviewing someone and they were on the resume, they were a perfect fit. That's all I knew though, right? On the resume, they were a perfect fit. When I started talking with them, they really bad-mouthed the company they were at that time. And I don't know if they thought that was a strategy. Like, if I say enough bad things about that company, then maybe this company will want to hire me, which wasn't the case, which was not the case. And I remember just sitting there thinking, no, like this is not a fit. Because what I knew that if they came to work with me, they'd be bringing all that bad experience with them, at least, whatever lens they were looking through. And it's very likely that they would be talking about the company I was with at the time just as negatively, a year or 2 years down the line to another company they were trying to get hired with. So if someone's bad mouthing the company they're currently working with or just having a terrible experience, and you feel like they're doing that, like they're sharing this just because they think that makes them a better candidate, you definitely want to run. Now, sometimes people have legit bad experiences, but it's still not something I would bring up in an interview, nor is it something I really want to hear from someone. What I want to hear is not about their bad experiences. I want to hear what they're going to bring to my company, right? What are they bringing to my company that's going to make a difference, and how will those skills make a difference? Once you're clear on their experience, then you can start to look at their skill set. Depending on the position you're hiring for, the skill set might be critical. Like if it's a highly skilled position, I'm going to hire skill over experience all day long, because if I have to train someone on a highly skilled position, it's going to take a long time. Now, in my world, like back when I was running the IT company, that was a little bit different when it came to hiring salespeople, because I was willing to train them, and if they were hungry and they had and they had values that were in alignment with ours, then it was pretty easy to make that transition. But if it's a highly skilled position, like accounting, for example, I'm going to hire someone with what I can identify as the highest skill set over someone who has experience but maybe hasn't grown with another company or hasn't gotten more skills over the years. So again, accounting is very specific. I would want to know their background. I would want to know their skill set. In some organizations, it could be marketing, right? If you're hiring someone for a marketing position and they have a very specific skill set, like maybe they're already an expert in social media, I'm definitely going to hire that skill set over someone else who might have more general marketing experience, but nothing very specific in terms of what we need. One way to kind of get a feel for their skill set is to ask during their interview what their first 90 days might look like with you. In other words, you could say, hey, Shelly, if we hired you, what would you do in your first 90 days? And I would ask that question in the interview, because that'll show me a lot about what their skill set is and how they would approach this position and if they can hit the ground running. If they have a lot of questions or if they're not sure, that's going to tell me a lot about whether or not they have the skills that I need. Since you're still hanging out with me, I want to share a pro tip with you, and it's this. Hire fast, but be willing to fire faster. And I know that sounds harsh, and it took me a long time to get, but I can tell you that I do hire fast. But often, if someone wasn't working out or it wasn't a good fit, it could take me forever to fire someone. And that was both expensive and painful, and it was definitely about me because I was afraid to do it when they weren't actually performing in the job. So hire fast, but be willing to put those parameters in place, your expectations, and if they're not meeting those, you want to fire faster. Now, my disclaimer is I am not an HR consultant. I am not an attorney. So definitely, if you're going to fire someone or let them go, talk to your attorney, talk to your HR consultant to make sure that you do it correctly in whatever state you're in. So today we started with the question, do I hire for experience or skills? And the truth is, you hire for both, but it depends on the situation. You hire for experience because you want to make sure they have enough experience to the job, knowing that some skills can be learned or gained. When it comes to values, you want to make sure those values are aligned with your company. And also pay attention. When they're talking about their past experience with other companies, notice if they're bad-mouthing that last company or if they had a bad experience, because they might be bringing that bad experience to you. When it comes to a highly skilled position, I recommend hiring skill over experience because there's certain things that take years to train. So if you can find someone that has the exact skill set you need, that's going to help grow your company even faster. Plus, you can ask them, what would they do during the first 90 days on the job? That's going to tell you a lot about their skill set and their experience. Stick with me because up next, we're going to talk about the different sales strategies and how you can use them to be more successful. And remember, your 2X is waiting for you too.